Jay Shear.
Jay Shear.
Jay Shear.
Jay Shear,
business consultant.
Jay Shear.
Jay Shear Business Consulting.
Welcome. I'm Jay Shear with Jay Shear Business Consulting. We build solid foundations for service-based businesses to grow and scale and achieve the results and success they deserve. And you've joined Business Minds Coffee Chat. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "What lies behind us and what lies before us are tiny matters compared to what lies within us." Well, on today's episode, we're going to explore what it takes to unlock our potential, discover the superhero in each of us, and achieve greater success and freedom. Our guest is a father, a transformational mindset coach, award-winning author, global speaker, podcast host, and an adventure addict. He's on a mission to positively impact millions of lives. Please welcome the man who is sharing the keys to mastering success in business and life, Brett D. Scott. Brett, thank you so much for being here. It is wonderful to see you.
I feel the first response was I was going to cheer. That was such a great introduction. Thank you, Jay. And you have no idea. I'm so excited to be on this show. And I'll tell you why. Anyone that's listening or watching will definitely attest to the fact that not only do you have an amazing voice, but you have an amazing mind. And I hear it in the way that you, because we do masterminding together as well, and I hear it in the way that you formulate your questions, and I can see how deep you think. And you're always wearing amazing t-shirts like the one you got on right now, which is grateful. It's the first thing I think about every morning. What am I grateful for? Grateful to have woken up. Grateful to be here with Jay. And, you know, and look, there's so much I'm sure we're going to unpack, and I'll do my best to not ramble on. I'll try and give everyone precise details without taking them too long of a journey. But the one thing I want to start with is my journey took me a long time to wake up. Let's put it that way. It took me 43 years, or 40, actually 39, when I had a breakdown. And then by the age of 43, I finally had a proper breakthrough. Finally knew that I was on my way, that I'd actually broken through those, let's call it self-sabotaging habits to enable myself to really go deep enough to figure out what was actually going on. And you mentioned about being a superhero, Jay. I feel like you're a superhero. I'd love to know which one you feel like you are. Maybe it's the Incredible Hulk, I'm not sure. But you know, it's every single one of us, and whether you're into, you know, superheroes or comics or any of those sort of things, doesn't really matter. The point is that we all have a hero inside of us. We all have an ability to become a hero. And I'm not talking about going and saving people. Well, actually I am talking about saving yourself. And that's why, if anyone can see what's behind me, there's quite a lot of Superman paraphernalia. And there's a sign that says "Be brave," which I don't necessarily have it there for you to look at. I have it there for me. So I can see it in my camera, be brave. And what that means is allow myself to be vulnerable and to share parts of my journey, which some of it I'm not extremely proud of.
So we're going to go a bit deeper on some of these areas. And I want to just acknowledge you for a moment for not only being brave, but being vulnerable, for telling your story, for sharing the bruises, the cuts, as well as the transformation and the growth. And when I think about being brave, you definitely exemplify that. And I'll share this with you, that you are the first guest that has ever taken over the mic at the opening of the show and started the show for us after the introduction. So that is about being brave. That's about making your mark. So thank you for stepping out in the right direction and helping us get this conversation started. So I'm going to ask you a question that I'd like you to give a bit of thought to, and it's around success. And what I would love for you to share with us is some words that you would use to define success for you, success in your life, success in business, just the words themselves, 3 or 4 words.
I'm going to give you the words of David Meltzer, which I know is someone that you appreciate as well. David Meltzer has a great way of putting it, and this is what he focuses in on. It is the consistent, persistent pursuit of my potential. That is success. That is success. And I'll tell you why. When I first started the journey properly, when I first knew I was going to be successful, I had a moment. Bob Proctor and I had a moment, and he delivered to me an emotional impact. And if you know anything about emotional impacts, usually they're negative, but this one was positive. And I had this emotional impact, which gave me the wording. I actually heard in my head, don't know if it was me or if it was the universe or God, but I heard, "Oh my God, you're going to be successful this time." And why that was powerful, why that was important for me, was that leading up to that time, I definitely have had quite a lot of success in my years, yet I never actually believed I was successful. And what would happen is I'd get to a certain level, I'd get to a certain point, and I would find a way to, I don't know if I can swear, I'll say F it up. I'd find a way to F it up. And then afterwards, I'd be thinking, why did I just do that? I can't believe I just did that. And I would even tell myself not to do that. And guess what I did? I would do that. Anyway, so this emotional breakthrough that Bob helped me have, it cemented in my mind, and I knew, had that in my heart, I knew I was never going to have to go through those moments again. And I would just continue to grow. Now, my view on success at that time was definitely not what it is now, which was success to me at that time was when you have the beautiful home, when you've got perhaps multiple kids, when you've got the ability to go on multiple holidays, when you have that beautiful car in your driveway. Those to me, and having lots of money. I left out an important one, which I'm sure a lot of people think about. When you got loads of money, you're successful. Guess what? I don't think that anymore. Do I want that? Yes. Is it important? Yeah, sort of. But what is truly important, what is true success to me are those moments on the journey that I have, which I'm on right now with you today. Today's success. Today is a successful moment for me, being on Jay's show, because I really appreciate who you are and what you're about, and I buy your energy. And I was thinking, when am I going to get on this show, right? And so the moments for me are when I can actually feel how much I've grown, when I can actually be in that moment and either make a decision, or I can see that I've actually done something and I can go, how did that happen? Oh, that's right. Guess what I did? I did the work. And that's what a lot of people aren't doing.
That's right. And I'm glad you brought that up, because we're going to be chatting about that a bit more, excuse me, with some specifics, some tactical things that our audience can do to do the work, and what that actually means to be able to create breakthrough, to be able to create transformation when we've experienced very challenging and difficult times in our lives, which we all go through them. So you have a very interesting story, a journey that you've been on, and that journey, as you mentioned, right, that journey continues because we're always in a state of change. So when change happens, we can either accept it, receive it, and use that to empower us or provide a springboard for us to move forward, or we can try to fight it, which ultimately leads to suffering. And you have, through your story, through the words that you use, you've been able to embrace it, It may not always look pretty, but you've been able to embrace it and then use that to empower you and become the individual that you are today and the individual that you are continuing to become. And it's a great, from a purely peripheral perspective, it is quite inspiring to see that growth. And as you know, when we are so close to it, right? When we're in it all day, every day, we don't necessarily see the growth that occurs. It's until we're able to pull back a bit, right? Create some distance, get some perspective. And this is, I know, one of the areas that you work very closely with your clients on is that perspective piece and how you can help them not only change, but celebrate the change, celebrate the successes. So why don't we do this? Because I do want to share part of your journey, but what I'd really love for you to lock in on is the point in life where you had a mentor or coach or book or message, something was transformative in your life that changed everything for you. Speak to who you were at that moment and what happened. And give us a thumbnail sketch, please.
I'm glad you said the thumbnail sketch. Okay, so there's so many moments, right? There's so many moments. And the reason I say that is because before I had what I call my proper breakthrough, which was November of 2018, before I got to that stage, I like to call it that I was living the zombie existence. I was living the Groundhog Day, basically. It looked a little different, but it was pretty much running the same story over and over. And when you take ownership, when you take responsibility for your life and everything that happens in it, including the things that you usually blame on other people and other circumstances of, you don't understand, this is what I had to go through. Sob stories, right? I'm gonna reference two things, and I'm going to start with this little book, which I know you've read. I was going to say I'm sure you've read. I know you've read Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. In that book, the first time I read it, and now this particular book, by the way, and I'm going to do a thumbnail, I promise. This particular book I'd had for over 20 years sitting on my bookshelf. What do we call that? Shelf help. Wasn't doing anything in my mind. Now, when I finally got through it for the first time, I remember hearing, I think there's about 30 different alibis that we give ourselves as to why we can't do something. And I remember hearing some of them and at that time thinking, hang on, Napoleon, some of those excuses are actually really, I would accept those. And I'm sure he would have heard me say that and say, yeah, I bet you would. I bet you would. Because that's why you're living the life you're living right now. So my point is, my first main coach, which her name is Mariko Fujimura, and the name obviously you can tell is from Japan, but she lives in Vancouver, Canada. She moved. And I remember the lesson she gave me, which was an extension of something else in this book. And if you know this book, you'll know that Napoleon Hill spent over 25 years interviewing some of the most successful people, in fact, over 500 of the most successful people at that time in the early 1900s. And he says in that book, and I quote, he says, of the 500 of the most successful people that I interviewed, the only thing, literally the only thing that they could all agree upon is they all made very quick decisions and they changed their mind very slowly, if at all. And the people who didn't have the same success, what I discovered is that they would take a long time to make up their mind. In fact, some of them wouldn't even make a decision. However, if they did make a decision, they'd change their mind frequently, all the time. And when I heard that, I remember thinking, shit, excuse my French. I remember thinking, oh my God, that's me. I'm that guy. I'm the latter. I'm the guy that's taken a long time. Now, to get to the point of the coach, I'm thumbnailing this now, is Mariko said to me, can I have your credit card? so we can get started on this journey. And I was going to do this Thinking into Results program with Bob Proctor. And I said to her, I was shocked. I was shocked. I should have known it was coming. But I said, look, can you give me a couple of days to think about it? No, can you give me a couple of days to work it out, not think about it? Because I really wanted to work with her. And she said, no. And I said, oh, okay. Well, I don't know if I can do this then. And she said, no. She said, you haven't even made a decision yet. And I was stumped. I was like, what the hell do you mean I haven't made a decision? How can I make a decision? And I said to her, I don't know how I can make a decision because I don't have the money. I got to figure out a way to pay you. You just asked for my credit card. And she said, it's not about the money. You haven't made a decision. Okay. And she said, look, are you open to understanding and learning how to make a better decision? I said, yes, please tell me. What am I missing here? She said, okay, it's very, very simple. I only need to hear one word from you, and that is yes or no. Do you want to work with me? Yes. Good. You've made a decision. Now I can actually tell you and give you some ideas about how you can actually get started. Anyway, the fact is I started, and the fact is I've made many bigger decisions since then. Now, the point that I want to make for everyone, this is one of the most valuable lessons. In fact, Tom Bilyeu of Impact Theory, if you know who he is, if you don't, look him up, Tom Bilyeu, he said this is the most important skill that anyone needs to learn, and not just for business, for life. If you can learn how to make a good decision, like properly make a decision, and just to put some context to it, I had no savings. I had no way of borrowing. I'd gone bankrupt not long before. I felt like a really shitty investment, so I wasn't prepared to ask anyone. If I looked at my current reality, which I was, I would have, and if I had have known nothing else, I would have said, there's no way I can do this. In fact, I've been in those moments before thinking, there's no way I can do this. But there is, right? There is. And this is the point. Most of us are going through life making decisions based on our current reality rather than what do you want? Things in life, we make them very, very hard, but they're very, very simple. And the simplicity of anything that you want to have in your life is just making a decision that, yes, this is what I want. Once you make the decision, you commit. And it goes back to that statement that David Meltzer says. It is the consistent, persistent pursuit of the goal, of your potential, whatever that might be. There you go. That's my answer.
It's a fantastic answer. And it's a very interesting perspective. And the question that was asked of you by this mentor / coach was a very powerful question, because it is definitely an area that many of us are challenged with, is making the decision and taking action and being fully committed and being all in. And I know throughout my career, there have been many times where I overanalyzed a situation, where I spent way too much time going into the details and trying to play out every scenario to the point where I just kept delaying the actual act of moving forward, because I got stuck in that endless loop, the what ifs, the I can'ts, trying to overcome every potential challenge that I could foresee. And is it important to do some due diligence? Absolutely it is. No question about it. But at the end of the day, being able to make the decision, being able to act, and being able to move forward, that is where your true power comes from. So I'm glad that you shared that. There was one other thing that you hit on that made me think of a internal thermostat. And that's where you had mentioned about self-sabotage, in that you would get to a certain place, a certain position, and you would self-sabotage, right? You would either quit, you would go backwards, whatever the situation was. And so often it's about changing our own internal thermostat. So if we're set to whatever the temperature is, let's say 75 degrees, whenever we get to 75 degrees, we're going to stop there. We may go a few degrees warmer, right? But we're always going to go back to what that thermostat is set to. So if we can learn through coaching, if we can learn through proper ways of processing information, reframing, retelling stories, overcoming limiting beliefs, changing biases, things along those lines, when we can raise that temperature and raise the register, then we start to see our lives in a very different way, in a very different light.
You've definitely hit on something really, really important. And most people are making decisions, as I said before, based on what they think they can and can't do, based on their history, based on what they think they potentially could possibly do. And what they don't realize is that it actually, there's things inside of us, and let's talk about there's a book called Cybernetics by Dr. Maxwell Maltz. He was
Excellent
one of
book.
the pioneering plastic surgeons in the day. And he ended up writing this book because he discovered that even though people would come to him to change their external look, some of them would have the external look changed and they would think that he hasn't done anything. What the hell's going on here? Because we're all looking at ourselves in the mirror and seeing something. And a lot of the time, you can be looking in the mirror and thinking, what the hell happened here? But other people look at you and think, no, you look absolutely perfectly fine. You look great. But because we have this picture, we have this the actual you is not this. The actual you is inside of here or outside somewhere. Who knows? But the point I'm trying to get at is all of us over the years, especially as we get older, right, we're taking on more conditioning, we're taking on more lessons, and our internal image at a certain point is taking damage, it's taking impact. And I remember when I really did this journey properly and going through this Thinking into Results program that I did with Bob, I remember at the self-image part thinking, I think I'm pretty good. You know, like I can go to events and I can do public speaking, you know, I feel like I'm okay. Then when I asked myself deep enough questions, which I wasn't before, these questions were so deep, got me to go so deep. I realized that I actually had really low self-belief and really low self-worth, and my confidence was actually shot. And I thought, oh my God, you know, and so what I'm trying to get at for a lot of us, you think about that iceberg analogy where above the water, everyone sees the success, and below the water is all the things we do to get there, right? All the things people don't see behind the scenes. And that's all very true. But if you look at the iceberg as above the water as your conscious mind, right? And it's a you know, it might be a decent size, but then below the surface is a much bigger iceberg. That's all the things that are unconscious to us, right? So unconscious or subconscious part of our mind. And why this is so important is for a lot of us, we're not actually consciously dealing with what's actually going on. We're not treating the root cause. We're treating the effect. You know, the things happen. Like I just had on my show just before we got on now, I had a lovely lady who has been through the depths of, you know, substance abuse, addiction, and enabled herself to get out of it. And she basically said for her, you know, she was constantly battling, you know, this image of herself because from a very young age, she was abused and she was told she was a piece of garbage and she was a weed in a rose garden, you know. And so we have to get to a certain point where we actually understand and have the tools to be able to correct what is not actually serving us. And I think it's vital for everyone, anyone listening. That's the pure essence of what mindset is about. It's about really understanding, and you said thermostat, really understanding what's your thermostat set at. In fact, I love that Bob Proctor will say to every single person he meets, what's the most you've ever earned in a year? And I remember hearing that thinking, what has that got to do with anything? And what it has to do with anything is that he can tell basically where you're at on your journey based on how much money you've earned. And that can actually, as you said, it can go up and down, but usually there's kind of a level. For me, funny enough, you said 75 degrees, mine was 75,000. That was my average. I had made over 100 and I had made less, and it would kind of always peter around that 75. And, you know, and now it's a hell of a lot more because I've changed that internal thermostat.
Yeah, that's an incredibly important point. And, you know, I think about the different businesses that I work with, and one of the things that you find in some of these businesses is that their revenues may cap out at a certain point for this very reason, because they've seen themselves, right? They picture themselves, they picture their business as a certain type of business that generates a certain revenue, and it's a revenue target that they are comfortable living their lives in, or they think they're comfortable living their lives. But at the end of the day, if they don't have, they may be generating top line, but if they have nothing to show for it, right, we've got a challenge there, we've got a disconnect. So you first have to change the internal, as you were just alluding to, and change the mental picture, right? Change the story that we tell ourselves. Be able to show that you're worthy of so much more, that you're worthy of charging more, that you're worthy of building a business that is going to generate more, that's going to be more profitable, and create a life and a legacy that you can be proud of. But so much of that starts with the internal work. One of the things that you've probably heard me say before is that if you want to grow a sustainable and thriving and profitable business, you have to grow yourself first. It always starts with us, always starts with us. So this is an interesting conversation, but I think it's important that we highlight and amplify the importance of mindset, which is such a significant part of what you do. And I would love it if you would share with us some tactical things that you would do if you were sitting across from a business owner right now who was having some struggles in their business, and they came to you because they were looking for some help in, how do I move past my limiting beliefs? How do I identify what the limiting beliefs are? What would you say to them? What would be a good starting point?
It might not be what you expect, but the first starting point for me is always, what do you want? What do you want? What do you really want? And why that's really important is it allows you to get really locked in. It's like, I think about desire, or I think about, and as you know, desire is the starting point of all success, as Napoleon would say. But I think about desire, or what we want, as the point where a lot of people aren't necessarily focused on what they want, or they might think that's what they want because that's what they've sort of been directed to be going after. So I think it's important for us to get really clear on, what do you want? What do you really want? What excites you? But at the same time, trying to get away from our limiting beliefs, you know, what would you really love that would actually scare you a bit? You know, would actually maybe even scare you a lot, you know, make it so almost unreachable, unattainable for you. And then once we actually know what that is, then we can say, well, what are the things that you believe would help you get there? And what do you think the things are that are holding you back from getting there? Like, why haven't you got there already? Why couldn't tomorrow you go out there and make that happen? And that I think the more questions we can ask ourselves, and if we can't ask them, if you can't think of them for yourself, find someone who can help you to dig deeper. Because it's about, as I said before, it's about bringing to your awareness, what are these things that are serving you that you can really, harness and really make even stronger? But what are these things that are actually holding us back? And some things that I've seen with a lot of my clients, and of many, many different things, they're often quite surprised, or they think they've already fixed it. Oh, I've already done that. One client actually said to me, for her business, I said, these are the things that I think you need to be looking at. And she said, oh, no, I'm already all over those. I've done all that. So what else is there? I said, I promise you, there must be something that you're not doing, because if you were, you'd be getting these results. Anyway, literally 3 weeks later, she comes back to me and she said, Brett, you're right. I wasn't doing this, right? Because she hadn't really gone deep enough. She hadn't really looked at it. She was just looking at the surface. So what I'm saying to you is, the answer is, for anyone sitting across from me that's got a business and hitting that invisible, that glass ceiling, and they can't seem to break through it, it's usually, and I love that you said, it's usually to do with them. It's not to do with the fact that they just can't get these particular clients. Well, it is a part of it, but it's not the root cause. For all of us, it's about getting to the root cause of what's going on, and we are the root cause. Like, whether you believe this or not, you are the creator of everything that happens in your life, good and bad. And it's very easy. And I told you back when I read that book, I remember thinking, no, that's not correct, because you don't understand Napoleon. This, and this is actually a good excuse. They're just excuses. They're just alibis. And you said something before about perspective. It's all about how you look at it. And right now you're looking at it with these particular eyes, but what if you were to move yourself around to the other side and look at it from this angle? How does it look to you now? How would Jay Shear look at this particular problem? I don't know. Guess he would, and so you like Bob Proctor literally does that. He gets a big what do you call it? Big parchment of paper, and he'll write the issue in the middle, and he will literally go around the table, move around the table, and he'll ask himself, I'm sure he uses Napoleon. How would Napoleon Hill look at this issue, this problem? How would Earl Nightingale look at this problem? How would whoever, and so I'm not saying you need to do that particular exercise. You just need to ask deeper questions of yourself. You need to say, what is actually going on inside of me? What is holding me back? And what are some of these really good characteristics that I operate with that I can actually harness and make even better?
I love that. I love that exercise that you just brought up that Bob Proctor does on perspective, and putting the issue or the challenge in the middle, and then looking at different perspectives, looking at different viewpoints. What would so-and-so do? Looking at it from this perspective. And it goes back to being able to really pull the lens back on our lives, pull the lens back on a business issue or a situation, to be able to get more clarity. And clarity is the key here. And, as you were describing, creating our own outcomes, right? Creating where we are right now, it reminds me of the fact that we are exactly where we are at this very moment because of the choices and the decisions that we made. Now, that's a tough one sometimes to swallow, but that is exactly where we are right now. So if you're looking to make any kind of change and you haven't seen the type of progress that you want to make in your life and business, guess what? It boils down to the choices and decisions that we make. So make different decisions. Learn, work with a coach, understand perspective and clarity so you can make those better decisions and better choices, which will lead to better outcomes. and a complete shift in change and transformation in your life.
Can I add one other ingredient that people, and if they don't have it, I promise you can get it, because I was the worst at this. Well, I feel like I was the worst, which is discipline. And for a lot of people who aren't disciplined, they think, oh, that's a dirty word. It's, I just go with the flow. I don't need discipline. That's too much work. I don't need discipline. Well, that's because you're looking at it from a point of thinking that I've got to be ultra disciplined. I've got to be like if you think about, just use this as an example. You think about that, you make a decision, you want to be a triathlete, you're going to do a triathlon. Well, it's going to take a bit of training to get there. And you're going to start off by running a little bit, swimming a little bit, riding a little bit. And you're going to keep improving those things, right? We keep improving those things. What is it? Repetition. And so discipline, and it's like that quote that David Meltzer uses. He's used it a couple of times, and I know that's his guiding light. Whenever he gets stuck, he thinks about it. Am I consistent? Am I persistent in my pursuit of my potential? Am I doing those things every single day? It doesn't have to be big, small steps, right? We compound interest, we build momentum. And so what I'd say to anyone, and I've heard it from a couple of my guests recently, discipline equals freedom. You want freedom, you got to be disciplined. You got to have systems, discipline. If you don't know how to do it, as you said, hire someone. Napoleon Hill says it, in masterminding, if you don't have the necessary skills and you don't want to learn it, you need to hire someone. Don't ask for a few tips and a bit of advice, pay someone. And I'm making a point of this because that's what I was never doing. Right up until I made that decision with Marika that I mentioned earlier, I was not investing in people to help me. Like, I was not investing in a coach, a mentor, a guide. And it was definitely the starting point, but it was definitely one of the best things that I've ever done, was actually investing in a coach. And now I jokingly, and I don't believe this, but I jokingly say that I invest too much now in coaches. I've got 5 or 6, how many I've got. But the point is, if I need the help, I'm going to actually ask for it, because that's what I was never doing. And I was always thinking, I'll be able to figure it out. I'm smart enough, and maybe it's a typical male trait as well, that, you got to be strong. You got to, you've got to find a way. Well, I wasn't finding a way. Actually, I just want to give you one more metaphor, which I heard the other day, probably yesterday actually, which I really liked. And this person said, think about the universe or God or whatever you believe in, that is always looking after us. The universe is, Gabby Bernstein would say, the universe has your back, right? Mm-hmm. And the way it works is we get the feather, the rock, and the bus. The feather, the rock, and the bus. And I thought, this is interesting. The feather is, hey, Jay, this is the way you should go. And it's like just tapping you on the shoulder. And we go, oh, yeah, I hear, but I'm busy. I've got this going on. I've got that going on. I'll get around to it. And then you get hit with the rock. It's like, oh, what was that? Oh, okay. No, look, yep, okay, I see it, I understand. Yeah, I'll get to that. I'm very busy at the moment. Very busy with this at the moment. I'll think about that later, right? Then, because we're not listening to the feather and the rock, we finally, not everyone, but finally, this will happen to me, the bus drops on you and you cannot do anything but pay attention to it. And so what I'd say to anyone listening is just remember, the universe is always trying to guide you, always trying to look after you, but you've got to pay attention. It could be your gut instinct. We all have intuition and we all have many higher faculties. And some people think I don't have certain things. You might not have certain things strong enough, that's all. You always have we all have the same thing most of the time. And so you just have to remember that you are getting guided along the way, but are you going to wait for the bus? Maybe the rock is okay, but you're always being guided with the feather or someone tapping you on the shoulder to try and lead you in that direction. That's why decision is so important. That's why you've got an instant.
I love that. Beautifully said. by the way you described it. And it also brings to mind something that you said at the beginning of this conversation when you first mentioned the book Think and Grow Rich, and that book had been sitting on your shelf collecting dust, which I can certainly relate to. And I love reading today. I love consuming the right kind of content, the content that's going to empower me, the content that's going to help me see that the impossible is actually possible, right? But here's the thing. With reading, with consuming material, with whether it's listening to podcasts, whether it's watching YouTube videos, whether it's going to seminars, listening to speeches, all of that is wonderful and fine, and it's important to do. But if you are not taking that knowledge that's being poured into you and applying it, actually using it, you're never going to see the types of results that you could if you actually took the right actions. Does it still help? Of course it helps, because it's changing your worldview. It's changing your perspective. It's changing your mindset. You're thinking differently, but you have to take the action. You have to use your words, do the work. You've got to do the work. And that's the most powerful piece of all of this, in my opinion, my humble opinion, is action. And it goes back again to what you said in the eloquent words of David Meltzer, right? Persistence, consistent action. That's what this is all about. So I want to ask you about starting your coaching business. So there's two things that I would love to find out from you. One is, what has been the absolute best part about starting your own coaching business? And then on the flip side of that coin, what's been the most challenging aspect of growing your coaching business?
So I remember when when I made the decision to be a coach, it was literally with Bob Proctor himself on a Zoom call like we're on at the moment. And I was with his VP of sales, Arash, and I remember being sick to my stomach. And I've never felt that way before. I felt fearful before, but I was sick to my stomach thinking, how the hell am I going to do this? One, it was a very big investment. And two, I just thought, am I going to actually be able to do this? Right? Am I going to be able to do this? Now, I had intention, or I had a thought in my mind that when I first started the journey, I thought, yeah, in a couple of years' time, I might become a Bob Proctor coach, Bob Proctor consultant. And I thought, yeah, that's maybe when I've got enough knowledge, I can do that. And it happened in 6 months. And and this is why I said about desire, when you lock into what it is you truly want, and my goal wasn't to be a consultant, that wasn't my goal, but organically it came to me quicker because of my goal. And this is why I want everyone to understand the power of setting a goal with a tangible date attached to it, because it's not about the goal. The goal is not the goal. And then people think, well, why the hell am I setting a goal then? If the goal's not the goal. The goal is for you to grow. The goal is for you to become the person that is ready to achieve or receive whatever it is you're going after. Now, part of the process for me was that for me to do the book, and my big goal, by the way, just so people think, what the hell is this goal that he's going for then? The goal for me was to have a triple best-selling book. I've already got one, but my solo book to be a triple best-selling book and to earn a certain amount of money. Now, for that book to be what I intended it to be, there's a lot of work that needs to go in, not just the pen to paper. That's the easy part. But what happens invariably is part of the lessons in the book, because that's what they are. There's 10 chapters. They're basically lessons. mixed in with some stories, some interesting stories of my journey along the way. And so for me, becoming a coach, it was kind of an organic thing. It was very, very hard for me to make that decision. But guess what I did? I took action. I didn't know if I was going to be able to do it, but I said, you know what? And Bob calls it the terror barrier. I was hitting the terror barrier hard, like really hard. And it was tough to break through, but I broke through it. And on the other side, literally that following afternoon, because I'm sure it was the morning, in that afternoon, I was like, thank God I said yes. Thank God I said yes. Because everything inside of me was trying to get me to say no. And that's what happens to a lot of us, right? Especially on big decisions like that. So becoming a coach was hard, but I knew it was something that I had to do. And there's a lot of other things that I could tell you that were giving me the advice as to why I was there, but it doesn't matter. The point is I made the decision. And the hardest part in being a coach, there's so many good things, right? There's so many good things, but yes, it's challenging. And I think for me, I had two things I was going to share with you. One was about a client, and I'm not going to mention names, and the second part was about me, was about what had to happen for me. And you'll understand this, Jay, is that, and you harped on it before, right? It's your business is all about you. Your business, like everything that's happening in your business, is all correlating to how what's going on in your where's your thermostat at? What's going on inside of you? So before I get to telling you that part, the first part is that one of my clients had suffered from mental health issues, and I won't give you the long-winded story. I'll just give you the short bit, which is she tested me. She tested me. But what she did, she tested me to the point where I had to stand up for myself. And I had to stand up for her. And I said no, because she was trying to get out of moving forward. And excuse after excuse. And the reason she was giving me excuses is because I'm telling her this is how we have to operate. This is how we're going to get you through. And she was fighting me all the way. And to the point where she was contacting head office and trying to find a way to get out of it. And she said to me, the last point before she accepted, she said in tears, she's saying, let me go. I don't want to do this. I said, you can go if you want to go, if you want to give up on yourself, but I will never give up on you. I will never give up on you. And literally in that moment of me saying that to her, she snapped out of it and she said, okay, I guess you're not giving up. So, okay, let's do this. Right. And now there's so much more I could tell you of that story, which is really positive, but that was probably the toughest thing for me. And why? Because it was about me. It wasn't about her. It was about me. And so the next part of it that I want to share with you for me was, and it's actually very recent, is going through that next evolution of discovering what parts of me need to grow, what parts of me need to be even stronger so that I can be the best coach, and to have the confidence and to have the absolute belief that if you work with me and I accept that what you're going through, I've got a solution for. If I tell you I can help you, there is no way you're not going to get that result. And that takes work. You don't just wake up and think you can do that. You know that. It doesn't take work on the business, it takes work on you.
Always starts with us, and it does help, and thank you. So as we move toward a conclusion here, it's amazing how quickly time goes. I'm thoroughly enjoying this conversation. Why don't you first share with us where we can connect with you, where we can consume your content, where we can listen to your podcast, buy your book and your new book that's going to be coming out?
So the easiest one, just so you can remember, is just remember my website, which is Brett D. Scott, both with double T, brettdscott.com. no .au, even though I'm Australian, you can hear the accent, brettdscott.com. That's the easiest way. I'm on mainly Facebook, Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn. I need to get a bit more active with that. I'm on TikTok. There's a story to why I'm on TikTok. And so the easiest way, it's my name, Brett D. Scott. There's a D there so you know that my first name is Brett, because most people call me Scott. And otherwise, it's Freedom Coaching by Brett D. Scott. And my podcast, or my vodcast, because I do them live on a Friday or a Thursday for you, is Mastering Success with me, Brett D. Scott, Mastering Success with Brett D. Scott. But the easiest way, if you want to, stay in touch, is connect on my website. The links for my social media, I think, are on there as well. So that's the easiest way to stay in touch. My book, I'll be letting everyone know, if you're connected, if you put your details, like your email, into my website, you'll be notified when my new book is coming out. It's actually and I'm not here to promote it today, but there's something really special coming about my book, not just what's inside of it, because I knew I needed to have good content, but there's a little sneaky way of promoting this book that no one's done before, that I will release to you, Jay, and you can share if you want as well. But it's going to be fun. It's going to be really good. I'm actually doing something with someone next week to get it all ready.
I am intrigued. That sounds interesting. Well, I will say that we will provide links to the areas that you just mentioned in the show notes, obviously.
Thank you.
And then also for our audience, when we have additional updates on Brett's book, we'll make sure that we add additional information and make sure that everyone that's watching and listening to this is aware of that as well. So you can go out and pick up that book and find out what special addition Brett is adding. So we look forward to that. So Brett, here is my final question to you. How will you measure your life?
This is not really answering the question, but interestingly, I don't know if you've ever had those thoughts. If I died today, how would I feel? If I died today, touch wood, I'm not requesting that, by the way, but if I died today, I would be happy. I would feel like I've done a great job. Have I finished? No means. So how do I measure? So the way I measure is just if every single day I know that one person, I'm getting feedback that one person is actually enjoying what I'm delivering, then I feel like I'm on track. Those moments I mentioned before about when I know how I feel about success. So when I have those moments where I can actually see how much I've grown, to me, they're kind of my measuring stick. Bob likes to refer to the moments of when you go on this journey that you'll need a telescope to look back and see how far you've come. And that's pretty accurate. I can't even imagine living the way I used to live only, less than a few years ago, which, is surprising to me, but it's also inspiring, I think, to other people to think, it doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter what shit you've been through. We've all been through some, probably even worse than what I've been through, but you can make these changes, but stop trying to do it yourself.
Excellent. Thank you. And I appreciate you sharing. And Brett, you know how grateful I am for you. I'm appreciative of you sharing of your wisdom, of your knowledge, of your story. You are definitely an inspiration. And I know how effective you are at coaching. I listen to what your clients say about you. I read about what your clients say about you and the transformation that you create in their lives and the impact that you're making. And the amazing thing is, Brett, that there are people's lives that you're touching, and knowing that one of your big goals is to impact more than 1 million people, positively impact more than 1 million people. You may never know most of those people. You're going to know some of them, right? You're going to know a percentage of them, but your reach and your ability to inspire and impact others through your words, through your videos, through your actions, powerful, my friend. It truly is. And I can tell you that you've helped me in a number of ways that you would not even know. So keep doing the wonderful things you're doing. I appreciate you. And I look forward to connecting with you again soon. So thank you for being here.
You're a legend. Really appreciate it. It's been wonderful.
Absolutely. And for all of you, thank you so much for watching and listening. And would you please take a moment to subscribe, rate, and leave us a review? We would love it if you would leave a comment and let us know one or two key takeaways from this episode. What resonated with you? What connected with you? Let us know that. And to enjoy more episodes and to learn how Jay Shear Business Consulting can help build a solid foundation for your business, all you've got to do is visit jayshearbusinessconsulting.com. And until next time, keep learning and growing. Visit Brett's website, which we're going to put in the show notes, and we'll see you on the next Business Minds Coffee Chat. Take care.
Jay Shear
Jay Shear
Business Consultant.
Jay Shear Business Consulting.